Hello, everyone. Tonight we are deep beneath the heavy canopies of a forgotten world, where the air is thick with the scent of wet bark and ancient mud. You shuffle along a narrow trail, feet squelching in the soft ground, the last slivers of twilight dissolving into inky blackness. Around you, towering trees loom like silent giants, their branches clawing at the darkening sky. The only sounds are the distant screeches of unseen creatures and the slow, deliberate scraping of heavy shells against leaf-littered earth. There just ahead, you spot them ancient turtles, massive and weathered, moving in slow, deliberate circles around a gnarled tree trunk. You pause. A chill prickles your skin as you realize how alone you are. And I hate to break it to you, but out here you probably won't survive. Predators larger than buses prowl the underbrush. Even the insects are the size of your hand. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. Drop your location and local time in the comments. Let's see who else is out here with us tonight. Now, turn off the lights. Maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's get started tonight. You creep closer, careful not to snap any twigs, and watch the turtles, each as large as a dining table, dragging their ancient shells in slow, creaking loops. The circles are tight, almost ritualistic. You can hear the rasp of their claws on the bark, the soft thud of their heavy bodies as they push against the tree's base. The oldest turtle among them, its shell chipped and scarred from battles long forgotten, leads the motion. You can't help but whisper to yourself, "What are they doing? Why circle the tree like this over and over before settling down?" Historians still debate whether this behavior was purely instinct or evolved wisdom. Some argue these turtles circled to check for predators. Others believe it was a kind of prehistoric choreography, an ancient turtle dance meant to stamp down the grass-shaped the mud and make a perfect resting spot. You lean against a tree yourself, feeling the bark's roughness beneath your fingers, and wonder if these circles were also about marking territory or maybe confusing a predator's sense of smell. A warm, damp breeze stirs the ferns, carrying the sharp, almost sweet scent of rotting vegetation. Overhead, something massive flaps through the air. You catch the shadow of a pterosaur gliding silently against the starlit sky. You instinctively duck, though it pays you no mind. The turtles, too, glance skyward with slow, blinking eyes, but their circling doesn't pause. It's as if they've done this 1,000 nights before, and they will do it 1,000 nights again. Oddly enough, while you're here thinking about these ancient giants, did you know that some modern turtles have a habit of doing a few slow circles before they rest, especially in captivity? It's as if deep down their DNA still hums with memories of these primeval forests and shadowy threats. Historians call that vestigial behavior, a remnant of the past peeking through the present. The forest seems to hold its breath as the largest turtle finally stops its circling. It rests its great body against the base of the tree legs, half hidden in the damp undergrowth. The others follow their movements, slowing until all is still. The only sound now is the whisper of wind threading through leaves and the distant splash of water. Somewhere a river or swamp lies hidden in the gloom. You crouch lower, heart-thudding, watching as the night claims the forest. Somewhere in the distance, something growls a low, bone-deep sound that makes even these massive turtles shrink a little deeper into their shells. The circling ritual is done, the night's defenses are set, and now they wait. And so do you, suddenly aware of how small you are out here, surrounded by giants of another age. A mosquito the size of your thumb buzzes past your ear. You swat at it and miss, of course. The turtles don't flinch. To them, this is home. This is safety. This is the shadow of the ages. The ground beneath your feet is soft, almost spongy, as you move forward, tracing the paths left by those ancient turtles. The forest floor is crisscrossed with wide, shallow grooves where heavy shells once dragged through mud and fallen leaves. You kneel to inspect one, brushing away a layer of debris with your hand. The track is broad as wide as your forearm, with the faint, curved scrape of a clawed foot at the edge. These aren't just random marks in the dirt. No, these are the first turtle tracks fossilized in the stone of time preserved for millennia under layers of sediment and ash. You run your fingers along the groove, imagining the creature that made it a giant, slow-moving sentinel of the night circling its chosen tree as if the act itself held power. Above the stars peek through breaks in the canopy, and you can almost hear a voice from the past whispering through the leaves. This is the way. Every circle, every careful step was recorded in the earth like a signature, and somewhere beneath your feet those tracks still rest turned to stone. Historians still debate whether the earliest evidence of these turtle tracks points to a specific species or a wider family of ancient shelled reptiles. Some claim it was Progonoclus, one of the oldest known turtles whose fossils date back over 210 million years. Others argue that the tracks don't quite match, that they belonged instead to a more mysterious, as yet unnamed ancestor. The truth is, like so much in ancient history lost beneath layers of earth and time, you stand and follow the trail, noticing how it loops and weaves in deliberate patterns around tree trunks. There's something almost artistic about it, like a prehistoric labyrinth drawn in mud. And maybe, just maybe, those circles were more than defensive. Maybe they were the turtle's way of leaving a map for the next night or for the next turtle to come along. A soft hoot echoes through the trees, a giant owl, its eyes glinting in the darkness, watching from above. You freeze, heart racing, and then remember you're not on the menu. Probably, but the turtles were. That owl's ancestors would have hunted the smaller young, snatching them from the forest floor with razor-sharp talons. No wonder the turtles circled and stamped and carved out their space. Here's a weird fact to chew on while you creep along those ancient tracks: fossilized turtle dung. Yes, really has been found near these grooves packed with crushed insect shells and bits of plants. Imagine the patience it took to study that under a microscope. But it tells us the turtles weren't just circling trees, they were feasting as they went, sampling the forest buffet before bedding down. You follow the tracks to where they suddenly end at a wide, shallow depression. The spot where the turtle settled, you realize. You can almost picture it, a massive shell ringed with moss and mud, sinking into the earth like a living boulder. The turtle's head tucked in its limbs, hidden beneath its armored dome. Safe. Or at least as safe as anything could be in a world filled with tooth and claw. The night air is thick now, heavy with the smell of rain on distant wind. You wipe sweat from your brow and glance around, half expecting to see the ghost of that ancient turtle still resting in its hollow. But all that remains is the track, the memory, and the whisper of leaves stirred by the coming storm. And as you stand there, you can't help but feel a kind of kinship with that long-gone creature. After all, aren't we all just leaving tracks hoping they'll be remembered? The night deepens as you move through the forest, shadows thickening around you like a living thing. The air is cooler now, but heavy, as if the trees themselves are holding their breath. You stop to watch a turtle, one of those ancient giants, deliberately circling the base of a massive tree. Its shell glistens faintly in the starlight, streaked with mud chipped from decades of weather and battles. The turtle moves slowly, but with purpose, as though it knows exactly what it's doing. The tree it chooses is no random sapling. This one is old, with bark like cracked leather and roots that twist out from the trunk like the gnarled fingers of some giant buried beneath the soil. The turtle's circling isn't aimless. It seems to inspect the tree from all angles, testing the ground with each heavy step, brushing its shell against the rough bark as if drawing strength from it. You edge closer, careful to stay quiet. A stick snaps underfoot anyway, of course it does, and you freeze. But the turtle doesn't react. It's too focused, too intent on completing its ritual. Historians still debate whether this careful choice of trees was about protection from predators or shelter from the elements. Some argue that turtles selected trees that could shield them from falling branches during storms or hide them from the eyes of hunting beasts. Others think the trees offered more subtle protection, a break in the wind, a place where the scent of turtle could mingle with sap and moss and become harder to track. You run your fingers over the tree's bark. It's damp, cool, and smells faintly of earth and decay. The turtle's shell scrapes along it with a soft, rhythmic sound, a sound that seems to calm the night around you. For a moment, you almost feel safe yourself. Odd fact for you in modern forests, some turtles still have a strange attraction to fallen logs and large rocks. They'll circle them, bump against them, even rest beside them, as if those objects offer a kind of comfort. It's as though some memory of these ancient rituals still lingers in their bones. A breeze stirs the undergrowth, carrying the scent of wet leaves and something sharper, the musk of a predator maybe. The turtle pauses, lifts its head slightly, and waits. You do the same heart thudding. But whatever was near seems to move on, and the turtle resumes its circling. The ground here is trampled flat in a wide ring around the tree, the earth packed hard by countless nights of this ritual. You wonder how many generations of turtles have used this very spot and how many more will, before the forest changes, the tree falls, and the pattern is broken forever. When the turtle finally settles, it tucks itself close to the base of the tree, blending so well with the shadowed roots that you almost lose sight of it. Its massive shell becomes just another mound in the darkness, another piece of the ancient puzzle that is this forest. And for now, at least, the turtle sleeps wrapped in the tree's protective shadow. You linger watching as the night deepens and the forest seems to fold in on itself. The shadows grow thicker, the air heavier. That turtle you've been tracking begins again, slowly, deliberately dragging its enormous shell through the mud in another tight circle around the base of the tree. But this time, something's different. As it moves, it uses its front legs to rake up damp leaves and clumps of moss, scraping them into the path of its dragging shell. Each pass smears a mixture of mud leaves and whatever debris the turtle can gather, like a living broom tidying up the forest floor. You squint in the dim light, realizing what's happening. This isn't just about creating a comfortable bed. The turtle is layering the ground with scent-masking camouflage. With every slow loop, it's stirring up the earthy smells of mud and plants, coating its shell and the surrounding soil. The turtle is erasing its trail, or at least making it harder for any predator to follow. Historians still debate whether this was intentional behavior or just a lucky byproduct of the turtle's nightly nesting ritual. Some argue that these turtles were masters of passive defense, using the natural world to hide themselves in plain sight. Others believe that the scent masking was incidental, just a result of circling for comfort and stability before resting. But tonight, standing here watching this creature work the mud and leaves into a thick protective layer, it sure looks deliberate. You kneel and scoop up a handful of the mixture yourself. It's cool and sticky, rich with the smell of wet earth. If you were a predator with a sensitive nose like one of those giant bear-sized crocodiles that sometimes lurk in these parts, you'd have a hard time telling where turtle ended and tree began. Here's a strange fact to mull over as you watch in some modern turtle species. Especially those that live in swampy areas, the young are known to smear themselves in mud or decaying vegetation to mask their scent from hungry birds and mammals. It's not common, but when it happens, it's a fascinating echo of these ancient survival strategies. The turtle continues its slow work, circling tighter now, as if drawing in the edges of its invisible shield. Its breathing is slow and steady, and the night sounds seem to hush around it. You hear the distant calls of night insects, the soft drip of water from a nearby branch. Somewhere far off, a predator howls, but here at the base of this tree, the turtle is safe for now. You can almost hear the forest sigh as the turtle finally settles into the nest it has made. It lowers its body, pressing into the cool mud, and draws in its limbs just enough that they are hidden beneath the curve of its armored shell. The scent of the mud, the leaves, the moss, all of it mingles together, cloaking the turtle in the smell of the forest itself. You lean back against the tree, your heart still racing a little from the tension of watching this ancient ritual. And as you do, you can't help but wonder, how many times did this simple, slow dance of mud and leaves Save a turtle's life? How many times did a predator pass by its nose, confused by the layers of scent its hunger unsatisfied? And how many of us in our own way still circle the trees in our lives trying to hide, trying to blend in, hoping the night passes without incident? You sit quietly. Now the weight of the night pressing down like a heavy blanket. The air is thick with the mingled smells of wet bark, crushed leaves, and the turtle's damp, earthy shield. But as your eyes adjust, you notice another subtle detail in the ancient turtle's ritual. This circling isn't random. Each loop seems carefully aligned as if the turtle is measuring something invisible, something you can feel but not see. Then it hits you the wind. A faint breeze stirs your hair, carrying with it the cool, clean scent of distant rain. And the turtle pauses. Its head lifts ever so slightly, its nose tasting the air. Then, with slow determination, it resumes circling, adjusting its path ever so subtly. The pattern shifts tighter on one side, wider on the other, as if the turtle is orienting itself to the wind's breath. Historians still debate whether this behavior was conscious or instinctive. Was the turtle truly reading the wind like a sailor, reading the sea aligning itself so that danger carried on? The breeze would be easier to detect. Or was it simply moving in a way that felt right? A pattern passed down through countless generations without thought. The truth is buried with the ancient turtles themselves. But tonight, watching this one, it's hard not to believe that there's purpose in its slow, careful movements. You close your eyes and listen, trying to hear what the turtle hears. The forest is full of tiny sounds, the rustle of leaves, the drip of water, the soft clatter of something small scurrying through the undergrowth. But beyond that, on the wind, you catch the faintest echo of something larger. A growl, perhaps, or the splash of something heavy wading through a nearby swamp. The turtle shifts again, positioning itself so the wind flows straight toward its face. If danger approaches, it will smell it. It will hear it. It will be ready to eat. And here's a fun offbeat fact for you to file away for your next trivia night. Some modern turtles, especially aquatic ones, have been observed orienting themselves to water currents when resting, almost like they're tuned to the flow of their world. Whether it's wind or water, the instinct to align with nature's invisible forces runs deep. The breeze grows stronger and the turtle finally settles, pressing itself close to the ground, its head angled into the wind. Around it, the forest seems to sigh in relief, as if acknowledging that this ancient guardian has done all it can to prepare for the night. You stay there for a long moment, feeling the wind on your own face, imagining the world through the turtle's senses, the scents, the sounds, the subtle shifts that speak of safety or threat. And as you finally rise to move on, you can't help but glance over your shoulder, half expecting to see the turtle's eyes glinting at you in the dark, as if sharing some quiet wisdom. Listen to the wind. The night presses closer, now thick, with the hum of insects and the far-off cries of creatures you'd rather not meet. The breeze that once carried fresh rain has stilled, leaving behind the heavy, unmoving air that seems to trap every sound. And that's when you hear it, a soft splash followed by the slow, deliberate crackle of undergrowth being pushed aside. You stop breathing for a moment, straining your ears. The ancient turtle at the base of its chosen tree stays perfectly still, as if carved from stone. But you can see the slight rise and fall of its shell with each deep breath. The forest holds its breath with you waiting. A shape moves between the trees. Huge, low to the ground, with eyes that catch the faintest glimmers of starlight. A predator. You can just make out the rough outline of its broad snout, the gleam of massive teeth when it opens its jaws ever so slightly. It's one of those ancient crocodile-like hunters, twice as long as a grown human, with armor plates along its back and jaws strong enough to crush bone. The predator pauses, sniffing the air, head swaying slightly as it searches for the source of the turtle's scent. But the wind has shifted, and the turtle's earlier circling, that careful layering of mud and leaves, has worked. The crocodile's nostrils flare in confusion. It steps closer, heavy feet sinking into the soft earth. Historians still debate whether these nightly encounters were common or rare. Some argue that the forests were so packed with life that turtles and predators crossed paths, constantly locked in a nightly dance of survival. Others believe turtles chose their resting places so carefully, so strategically, that such encounters were the exception, not the rule. Either way, tonight you're witnessing that ancient tension firsthand. The turtle does not move. Its head is tucked in just enough that only the thick, bony edge of its jaw is visible. Its limbs are hidden beneath its shell. From where you crouch, barely daring to breathe, the turtle looks like nothing more than a mound of mud and moss at the base of the tree. Odd fact for you: some prehistoric crocodilians had such sensitive snouts they could detect tiny vibrations in water and mud, allowing them to home in on prey in near total darkness. It makes you wonder how much longer this turtle's camouflage will hold. The crocodile steps closer. Still, its eyes fixed on the base of the tree, nose twitching, as it tries to untangle the web of scents. It circles the tree once, twice, as if trying to figure out what's real and what's forest trickery. You can almost feel its hunger in the way it moves, slow and methodical. But then a sound in the distance. A second predator's call, a challenge, or perhaps a warning. The crocodile hesitates, torn between hunger and the threat of competition. After what feels like forever, it turns away, slipping back into the shadows, the soft splash of its retreat fading into the night. You let out a breath you didn't know you were holding. The turtle remains motionless, as if it knew all along that stillness was its best defense. And as the night grows quieter again, you can't help but admire this ancient creature's patience and wisdom. In a world where teeth and claws ruled the turtle's shield and stillness were its greatest weapons, you move carefully through the undergrowth, following the faint grooves left behind by the circling turtle. The ground here is uneven, littered with fallen branches and clusters of strange prehistoric ferns that glow faintly with moisture in the starlight. As you step over a tangle of roots, you notice something curious. The turtles in this part of the forest seem to favor certain trees over others, always choosing the same types, always circling the same familiar shapes. One massive turtle, its shell dark with streaks of sap, is circling the base of a towering conifer-like tree. The tree's bark is thick and deeply ridged, oozing resin that shines like amber where the moonlight catches it. The turtle presses its shell close against the trunk as it moves, so close that the sticky sap clings to the edges of its armor. The smell is sharp and sweet, cutting through the damp, earthy air. Historians still debate whether this preference for certain trees was driven by practicality or instinct. Some believe that the turtles were drawn to trees whose resin could mask their scent or harden into a protective layer on their shells. Others argue that it was more about the tree's physical structure. The wide trunks and dense root systems offered shelter from rain and predators alike. There's no clear answer, but tonight, watching this turtle coat itself in sap and shadow, it's hard not to see the wisdom in its choice. You press your hand against the bark of a similar tree. The sap is sticky and cool, clinging stubbornly to your skin. It smells faintly medicinal, almost like pine. You can imagine how it would confuse a predator's nose, how it might even deter biting insects or parasites. And speaking of odd facts, did you know some ancient tree resins have been found perfectly preserving insects that got trapped millions of years ago? Tiny time capsules of forest life caught forever in golden drops of ancient sap. You glance at the turtle and wonder if it knows that in its slow circling, it's part of that same timeless process. The turtle finally settles at the tree's base, its shell streaked with glistening sap, its massive form blending seamlessly with the roots and shadows. Around it, the night seems to quiet once more, as if the forest itself respects the turtle's choice of refuge. You stand very still, listening to the soft rustle of leaves, the distant call of some nightbird, and the steady rhythm of your own breathing. Here in the hush beneath the chosen tree, it feels as though time has folded in on itself, and for a moment you are no longer a visitor. You are part of this ancient secret world. The night deepens, still the darkness now so complete that you rely on the faint glimmer of starlight to see. You push through a curtain of ferns and pause as the forest opens into a small clearing, a hollow, where the ground dips gently and the trees form a natural ring. And here you see them, not one turtle but many. Their massive forms move slowly, each circling a chosen tree or clump of roots, their shells brushing against bark, their steps deliberate and heavy. The ground is a patchwork of old turtle tracks layered one over the other, like the lines of an ancient map. You can almost feel the history beneath your feet, generations of turtles returning to the same trees, the same patterns, night after night. They're not solitary here. Instead, they've formed a kind of loose community, each turtle respecting the space of its neighbor, but drawing strength from being near others. Historians still debate whether this gathering was intentional, a form of primitive social behavior, or simply a result of good trees being in short supply. Some argue that turtles sought each other's company for shared protection, knowing that predators were less likely to attack a group. Others believe the turtles didn't care about company at all. They were drawn to the best trees, and that's where their paths happened to cross. You watch as one particularly old turtle, its shell deeply grooved and pitted with age, circles a massive tree that already shelters two others at its base. The old turtle pauses as if considering whether to join them or seek its own spot. Then, with a slow sigh of movement, it begins a new circle around the far side of the tree, leaving the others undisturbed. Here's an odd little fact. Some modern tortoise species are known to gather at certain types of trees or rock shelters, especially during extreme weather. They don't exactly form friendships, but they seem to appreciate a good spot when they find one, and they don't mind sharing it if space allows. You sit quietly at the edge of the clearing, feeling the strange peace of this ancient gathering. The turtles move with the rhythm of the forest itself, slow, steady, as if they have all the time in the world. And maybe they do. In a place like this, time doesn't rush. It circles like the turtles themselves, always returning to the same trees, the same shadows, the same quiet company. The breeze returns cool and damp, and with it the faintest smell of rain. You stay a little longer, unwilling to break the spell of this hidden community, this gathering of the ancient night. The night hums with life as you ease around the edge of the turtle clearing, careful not to disturb the ancient congregation. But just ahead you spot a scene unfolding that makes you stop short, biting back a laugh. A younger turtle, smaller than the others but still massive by modern standards, is circling a tree already claimed. Except this tree's resident isn't a fellow turtle. No, this tree is home to a different kind of ancient forest dweller. Clinging to the bark is a massive sluggish reptile, something like a giant prehistoric lizard, its scaly body pressed flat against the trunk, hoping to remain unseen. The lizard's eyes flick nervously as the turtle drags its heavy shell in tight loops around the base of the tree, completely oblivious to the awkward situation it's creating. You watch as the turtle completes 1, 2, 3 circles, brushing so close to the lizard's dangling tail that it twitches in irritation. The turtle seems utterly unaware of the disturbance. It's focused, following its instinctive pattern, determined to prepare its bed for the night. Historians still debate whether these comical encounters were rare or common in such densely packed ancient forests. Some argue that the competition for the best trees must have led to frequent awkward moments like this. Others suggest that different species largely avoided each other, guided by scent or sound, long before such mix-ups could happen. But clearly tonight's turtle missed the memo. You smother a grin as the lizard finally loses its patience. With a slow, disgruntled shuffle, it abandons its perch, sliding down the trunk and skittering off into the underbrush, leaving the tree and its persistent visitor behind. The turtle pauses as if noticing the movement at last, then resumes circling utterly unbothered by the drama it just caused. Here's a weird fact for you to file away. Certain modern tortoise species have been known to blunder into the burrows of other animals like badgers or foxes, seemingly unaware of the tension they create. Slow and steady, yes, but not always the most socially aware creatures in the wild. The turtle finally settles, its circling done, and you can almost hear it sigh in satisfaction as it lowers its shell against the tree's base. The clearing grows quiet again, the lizard long gone, the turtle at peace, and you're left with the image of this ancient comedy of errors, a reminder that even in a world of giants, not every encounter was life or death. Some were just awkward. You linger at the edge of the clearing watching as the night wraps itself around the ancient forest like a heavy curtain. The turtles are still now each settled at the base of its chosen tree, their circling complete. The grove is silent save for the soft whisper of leaves and the distant call of a nightbird. But as you observe these massive resting forms, a curious thought creeps in. Have you seen this before? Not here, of course, but in modern turtles. The memory surfaces a small turtle in a garden pond making a slow, clumsy circle before settling in the mud. A tortoise in a petting zoo pacing in awkward loops before finally resting beneath a rock. It's subtle, easy to miss, but it's there, the echo of that ancient instinct. Historians and animals behaviorists alike have puzzled over this lingering habit. Some say it's a holdover from those prehistoric nights when circling meant survival. Others believe it's just coincidence, modern turtles adjusting their position for comfort, not out of any ancestral memory. The truth, as always, drifts somewhere in between, debated over coffee-stained papers and dimly lit lecture halls. The turtle nearest you shifts slightly, the massive dome of its shell blending perfectly with the roots and shadows. The mud and sap still cling to its armor, a protective coating that has stood the test of time. It seems at peace, but you know better. That stillness is a mask. Beneath it lies a creature, always listening, always waiting, always ready for the night's dangers. Odd little fact for you, some researchers have noted that even hatchling turtles fresh from their eggs will sometimes spin in tight circles before settling under debris or in the sand. Nobody's sure why. Maybe it's comfort. Maybe it's ancient memory, a shadow of the ages imprinted deep in their tiny bones. You sit back against a fallen log, feeling the soft give of moss beneath you, and let the night wash over you. The turtles, the trees, the wind, they all seem connected by threads of instinct woven together across millions of years. And as you close your eyes for a moment listening to the steady rhythm of the forest, you wonder what other echoes of the past might still shape the creatures of today. The night deepens, the darkness now so complete that even the stars seem dim, swallowed by the weight of ancient trees and thick clouds gathering above. You hunker down near one of the massive turtles, feeling the cool dampness of the ground seep through your clothes. The turtle hasn't moved in what feels like an hour, its shell blending so perfectly with the twisted roots and moss that it might as well be part of the forest floor itself. And yet, as you sit in that quiet, your mind drifts to the questions that have puzzled scholars for generations. Historians still debate whether this circling ritual was primarily about defense, as you've seen so often tonight, or if it served other less obvious purposes. Some argue the circling helped regulate body temperature, allowing the turtle to find the exact patch of ground where heat from the day's sun still lingered in the soil. Others suggest it was a form of silent communication, a way of signaling presence or intent to other turtles nearby, primitive social messaging in a world without sound. You imagine a room full of scholars poring over fossilized trackways, arguing in hushed voices about the meaning of these ancient loops and spirals. One points at a diagram, insisting it's proof of temperature control. Another waves a stack of papers, convinced it was all about camouflage. And somewhere in the back, an old professor chuckles, knowing they'll never truly solve the mystery. Odd fact break for you. There's evidence that some prehistoric turtles may have had heat-sensing organs in their snouts, rudimentary, but enough to detect warm patches of ground or the subtle temperature changes around certain types of trees. It makes you wonder if their circling was guided not just by instinct, but by these hidden senses. You glance again at the turtle beside you. Its massive form is so still, so steady that you can almost forget the creature is alive. But then a soft, slow breath lifts its shell just slightly, and you're reminded of the life within, ancient and enduring. The wind shifts, bringing with it the first cool drops of rain. You shiver, drawing your jacket tighter, and the turtle does what it has always done: nothing. It waits, patient and timeless, its rituals shaped by forces you can barely begin to understand. And as the rain begins to fall, you realize that sometimes the answers don't matter. Sometimes it's enough to witness the mystery and know that you're part of its story now, too. The first drops of rain tap gently against the leaves, soft as whispers. You feel them on your face, cool and clean, and for a moment the forest smells fresh, washed of the night's tension. But then the storm truly arrives. The wind howls through the trees, bending their massive trunks until they creak like old ships at sea. The rain pours in sheets, blurring the shapes of the forest into shifting shadows. You crouch low beside a fallen log, watching as the turtles brace against the fury of the storm. The one closest to you presses even tighter against its chosen tree, its shell angled so the rain runs off in rivers, its head drawn so far in that only the tip of its nose peeks out. And it's not alone. Across the clearing, the other turtles do the same, their earlier circling having created little basins where water pools harmlessly around them instead of washing them away. Historians still debate whether turtles of this age chose their trees and circling patterns specifically with storms in mind. Did they know somehow which trees would shelter them best? Or was it pure chance, a lucky outcome of seeking the sturdiest trunks night after night? Watching them now, how the tree shields them from falling branches, how their low profiles defy the storm's strength. You can't help but feel there was wisdom in their choice. A great crack of thunder splits the night so loud it feels like the sky itself has broken. A branch thick as a man's torso crashes to the ground not far from where you crouch. The forest floor shakes beneath you. You glance at the turtle, expecting panic, some sign of fear. But it remains still, its shell gleaming with rain, its patience unbroken. Here's something you might not expect during modern hurricanes. Some species of sea turtles have been observed riding out the storms by burying themselves deeper in sand or pressing against natural shelters, much like these ancient cousins of theirs. It's a reminder that survival often comes down to knowing when to move and when to stay perfectly still. The wind howls again, and somewhere in the distance you hear the crashing of trees following the roar of water as streams overflow their banks. The turtles endure it all, silent and unmoving like living stones. You huddle beside your log, heart racing, and wonder if you can learn from their calm. Finally, the storm begins to ease. The wind softens the rain, lightens to a steady patter, and the first hints of dawn color the clouds with pale silver. The forest is battered, but the turtles have weathered the night. And so somehow have you. The storm has passed, but the forest is a ruin of splintered branches and flattened ferns. The air is heavy with the scent of wet earth and fresh sap, the kind of smell that sticks with you long after you've left the woods. You stand slowly, muscles stiff from crouching, and glance around. The turtles are still there, still as boulders, their shells streaked with mud and rain. But tonight, something unexpected happens, a moment so rare that even the ancient forest seems to hold its breath. You hear it first, the low rumbling growl of a predator closer than it should be. Then the crackle of undergrowth as something massive pushes its way through the ferns. A predator, probably one of those ancient crocodilians again, but younger, more reckless. Its broad head appears between two trees, jaws agape, yellow eyes fixed on the nearest turtle. The predator moves in a rush, Muscles rippling beneath its armored hide, hunger driving it faster than caution. It lunges, jaws snapping, expecting an easy meal. But in its eagerness, it misjudges. The turtle had shifted slightly during the storm, its shell angled in just such a way that the predator's teeth slam harmlessly against the hard, curved dome. The sound rings out a hollow metallic clang, and the predator recoils momentarily stunned. Historians still debate whether incidents like this were sheer luck or part of the turtle's defensive strategy. Was the circling, the angling of the shell meant to deflect attacks? Or was it all coincidence, the predator's mistake rather than the turtle's plan? Tonight at least, the turtle seems the wiser of the two. Odd fact for you, the shells of ancient turtles like Mealania were so thick and ridged that predators could break their teeth trying to crack them. There's even fossil evidence of tooth marks that never made it through. Nature's own suit of armor perfected over millions of years. The predator snarls, shaking its head, confused and frustrated. It circles once, twice, but the turtle doesn't move. No panic, no retreat, just the silent, immovable confidence of an animal that knows its strength. At last, with a final hiss, the predator slinks back into the shadows, jaws empty, pride bruised. You exhale, realizing only now that you'd been holding your breath. The turtle remains still the victor of this quiet battle, the storm's survivor, the predator's lesson. And as the first true light of dawn touches the treetops, you can't help but smile. Sometimes it seems slow and steady, doesn't just win the race, it wins the night. The light of dawn filters weakly through the battered canopy, painting the world in soft golden gray. The storm has stripped many of the trees bare, and the forest feels strangely exposed. You step carefully over fallen branches and pools of water, the air fresh and cool against your skin. The turtles are still there, resting at the bases of their chosen trees, but something about the scene feels different. You can almost sense it. The end of an era. The circling, the nightly rituals, the careful choice of trees and angles. It all seems like a tradition that's beginning to fade, even as you watch. The world is changing. The forests are thinning, the predators are adapting, and the climate, slowly but surely, is shifting. Historians still debate exactly when and why the circling ritual began to disappear. Was it the changing forests with fewer of the massive trees that once offered shelter? Was it the rise of new predators, smarter and faster, that made the slow circling obsolete? Or was it the climate itself turning the lush forests into open plains where there were no trees left to circle? You can imagine it, generation after generation of turtles adapting, abandoning the nightly circles as the trees vanished and new challenges arose. Slowly, the instinct faded, replaced by other strategies, other forms of survival. And in time, the forest that had echoed with the slow scrape of shells and claws grew silent, the turtle trails lost beneath new layers of earth and grass. Here's a strange little fact for you. In some modern desert tortoises, scientists believe traces of those ancient circling behaviors still surface in the way they pace or test their burrows before settling. A flicker of memory buried deep in their bones. You stand at the edge of what was once a turtle gathering place, now open and vulnerable. The trees stripped by the storm, the shadows thinner than before. The turtles begin to move slowly, as if sensing the change themselves. One by one, they turn from their trees and make their way toward the deeper forest, toward whatever new shelter they might find. You watch them go, feeling the weight of their history in each slow step. The end of the circling is not sudden, not dramatic. It's just the quiet retreat of a habit that no longer fits the world. And as the last turtle disappears into the morning mist, you're left with only the tracks in the mud and the whisper of the wind through broken branches. The forest breathes again, the storm's fury now just a memory washed clean by the dawn's soft light. You stand alone in the clearing, the turtles long gone, their trails already filling with water and fallen leaves. The trees, scarred by wind and rain, cast long shadows across the battered ground, shadows that seem to stretch beyond the clearing, beyond the forest, beyond time itself. You take a slow, deep breath, the cool air tasting of rain sap and ancient earth. The hush that follows a storm always feels sacred, as if the world itself pauses to reflect. And so do you. You think of the turtles, they're circling their quiet wisdom passed down through ages. You think of how even as the world changed, they carried on until, at last, the shadows of their nightly rituals faded, swallowed by new landscapes, new dangers, new ways of survival. Historians still debate whether the instinct truly vanished or simply evolved into something unrecognizable to us. Maybe those ancient shadows linger still hidden in behaviors we overlook. Maybe they live on in the slow, cautious steps of a desert tortoise, or in the way a modern turtle nudges its shell against a log before resting. The truth is, the shadow of the ages is hard to see until you step back and look at the whole picture. Odd fact to ponder as the morning warms the clearing. The oldest turtle fossils ever found, some over 220 million years old, show evidence of shell wear and tear that suggests these creatures lived long lives, weathering storms, predators, and the endless march of time. Imagine the stories etched into those shells. The breeze stirs gentle now, carrying with it the promise of a new day. The clearing seems quieter, emptier without the turtles, but if you listen closely, you can almost hear their footsteps echoing in the earth. The circles they carved may be gone, but their memory lingers in the land, in the trees, in the silence. And as you turn to leave, you pause one last time, letting your eyes follow the faintest trace of a turtle's path disappearing into the forest's edge. The shadow of the ages isn't something you can hold or see clearly. It's something you feel in the hush of dawn, in the weight of the earth beneath your feet, in the quiet endurance of creatures who lived their truth long before we came along to wonder at it. The forest quiets now, as if tucking the night stories beneath its roots. The circling turtles are gone, their paths hidden beneath fresh leaves and soft mud, their ancient instincts slipping farther into the past with every rising sun. But their memory lingers like the faintest breeze brushing your cheek, like the scent of wet earth after rain. You feel it, still the rhythm of their steps, the scrape of shell against bark, the hush of the forest bearing silent witness. These were creatures shaped by ages, moving in patterns older than memory, guided by shadows we can barely understand. And now, as the light softens the edges of the world, you let yourself drift with them back into the quiet, back into the mystery, back into the long, slow dance of survival that once filled these woods. So breathe deep. Let the last echoes of their steps fade into the morning, and know that somewhere in some hidden corner of the world, the shadow of the ages circles still.